Colossus is one of those people that get completely underrated because he's one of those characters we haven't necessarily visually seen on screen destroy a planet, similar to how we've technically never seen Goku destroy a planet or nothing. Like, we've never seen him actually technically do it, I guess, because that's not something he would do because he's not evil, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. We know he can because he's overpowered beings that can, overpowered their beams that can, blah, blah, blah. This is kind of like Colossus, but the difference being Colossus is way more underrated, and people kind of think just because we haven't seen him do it doesn't mean he can't do it. I mean, there's plenty of narrative writing intent. He's up there with like plenty of the planet busters in Marvel. Even if he isn't equal completely, he's like barely slightly under them. Like, Colossus isn't the only one they treat like this. Like, they talk about his strength a little bit, but it doesn't really give you a real good idea of his true strength because they say, oh, he can apparently lift 100 tons, or they say class 100. I like when they use the word class better. That's kind of like an oversimplification because he definitely can lift over 100 tons. Like, I'm not trying to say he's up there with World War Hulk, obviously, but like weaker versions of a Hulk maybe. Like, because even World War Hulk even said that there might have been a time you would have been a good opponent for me. This definitely implies he can lift over hundreds of tons. Mistakes like this happen when they say a character can only lift 70 tons or 100 tons. This happens when you don't really know the weights of stuff. Like, this video is definitely going to prove he can lift way more than that. The mind is a powerful thing. One could argue one of the reasons why he's underrated is that he himself underrates himself and doesn't know his full strength because he's blocking his full power with his own doubt. Because everybody has their mental challenges and mental health issues. Colossus is one of those beings. Like, in this particular situation, he was going through like a crisis and he wasn't believing that he was strong enough to do it. Because in this particular situation, they were talking about how he was frightened ever since he tussled with Magneto, worried about not pulling his weight. But all along, he was definitely strong enough to do this little hydraulic crap. So Wolverine said, let me give you some incentive. If you're worried about my life, then you will probably figure this out. And then Colossus does it to show that he really was strong enough. So one could say his own enemy is his own doubt, his own self. It's no secret you can be strong in a lot of different type of ways. But I will admit, I have a weak spot for beings that are just strong in your traditional sense. Like, I'm talking about just good old-fashioned super strength, like muscle strength, super crazy durability, that kind of strong. No telekinesis, no telepathy, just good old-fashioned muscle strength. Like, that's the type of being Colossus is. I mean, he's a being that has like a normal looking mode, but then he has like a legit steel mode. You guys already know the story. He's a mutant. His power manifested when he was young. He was contacted by Professor X, you know, the leader of the X-Men. It was during the time he was organizing a new team of mutants. That's when Colossus agreed to leave the farm community in which he was born and raised to go to America with Xavier. He was given the code name Colossus. Yeah, this guy was living a simple life, but then his powers manifested, and that's when life gets more complicated. And naturally, having a long comic book history like he does, he's on a lot of adventures. That's why you see him having a lot of different looks, different outfits. When he transforms, he's 7'5" armored. The way his powers work, he possesses the ability to convert the tissue of his entire body into an organic steel-like substance, granting him great strength and high degree of imperviousness to bodily harm. He can do this at will, instantaneously. He can remain in this form an extended amount of time. In comics, there's this thing called temporary powers. You guys probably know I talk about this a lot on the channel. I'm not going to focus on this too much, but yeah, there's been times where he's been amped up more than normal. Normally, he's always in the steel mode no matter what, but yeah, there was moments when he became like a Juggernaut Colossus fusion, unstoppable Colossus. Or did I mention he got augmented temporary power to be a horseman of apocalypse, which allowed him to do extra stuff that he can like do liquid metal stuff with his metal, like stretching his metal towards you. Like, yeah, this horseman of apocalypse amp is kind of crazy. And then there was times where he actually got imbued with Power of the Phoenix. Yeah, but I ain't gonna focus on this too much yet. I don't really want to heavily rely on temporary powers because even in his just normal state, he can do crazy stuff like not needing to really eat at all when he's in his armored up state. One can look at it, even though he's technically steel, one can argue that his version of steel is better than normal old real life steel or whatever when it comes to his durability and his shell of his body. Notice how the comics themselves even said his organic armored form is far stronger than steel. So yeah, so when you see him do out of the ordinary durable stuff in this video, don't be surprised because just straight up shooting him just ain't gonna cut it. It's even confirmed in his lore that you can't even shoot him in the eyeballs when he's in his steel state. I don't even know why people be trying to shoot him. Usually bruisers this strong like Colossus, you think they just rely on their strength. Believe it or not, he actually is decent at hand-to-hand fighting and wrestling techniques. He can actually fight with this kind of strength. That's why you see him in legit training sessions. Like, he literally be practicing how to fight, even practicing here and there using a sword with Nightcrawler. To show he just doesn't want to rely on his raw strength, he actually trains to fight. Facing certain opponents that are big, like Sasquatch, we'll see him do like a literal judo throw. Just a friendly reminder, guys, when you see him in his steel mode, he's actually like using his super strength and stuff. But when you see him in his normal human mode, he cannot use his super strength in normal human mode. So yeah, when you see him in normal human mode, just know that he's actually using fighting skills and not relying on his super strength. So you know this villain known as Whiplash, we actually see him punch beings like Whiplash in his normal human mode. Grab him, showing his fighting skills full Nelson style here, for example, to show like he can just literally fight. I mean, be honest, he's a big guy without being unarmored. So he's still not like the smallest guy, even when he's unarmored. But yeah, he takes on these normal people unarmored. I mean, honestly, if he armored up against these guys, he might have accidentally killed them. So it's best he did it this way. Like, the writers seem to love doing this. They love writing stories to where they can't use their abilities conveniently, so they have to find other ways. Like, this is Colossus, for example, fighting this T-Rex. It forces the character to have to use battle IQ and just intelligence to fight something bigger and stronger than him when he's not in this super powered up state. It shows that Colossus can just improvise even against big dinosaur-like entities. So one can say he just has decent battle IQ. Professor X even notes on how skilled he is because he's helped train him well. I mean, he's basically a veteran on the X-Men squad, so it makes sense on why he would be the one to train the newbies. In this particular situation, he's actually powered up, though, of course, you know. And he teaches them about their attacks. He said, you telegraph your attack, rock slide, like, let you know that he be teaching them, giving them lessons on how they can be better. Now let's try this again, he said. Like, he handled these newbies, but part of this is because he's insanely strong in his durability, though, I will admit. But even then, we see him do, like, flips, flipping people off his back, even when they stacking against him with different powers on him at the same time. This kind of shows battle IQ on how he says your abilities are impressive, but they are being used poorly. He used the environment to his advantage, like an elemental weakness type of thing, to counter. Exercise is over. Try again next time. It's one of them situations, even if you're just as strong as him, if you don't have his level of fighting skill, that doesn't give you a guaranteed win. He still might be able to win. I mean, just because you got superpowers like in this particular situation doesn't mean you're strong enough to damage him via his durability. Like in this occasion, multiple super beings getting handled by Colossus by himself. He seems to have your standard superhuman reflexes too, like Marvel Comics. I'm gonna get back to this, but yeah, even bullets. Notice how he's in his human mode. So yeah, he actually was in danger. So yeah, but he still was able to dodge it. So it shows his combat speed is just like how the super soldiers are in Marvel. This is a common super soldier thing. So bare minimally, he has to be at least be able to dodge bullets when it comes to his fighting speed. His speed is enhanced in his armored form. So yeah, he does have above average speed. It's scary thing about Colossus, even though he's 500 pounds, he can technically run dang near as fast, or one could argue faster than the fastest man in the world. Imagine something that's 500 pounds ramming to you at 26 miles per hour. Like, imagine that. I mean, there are beings that are stronger than him, I would say. Of course, we all could agree to that. But when he is outclassed physically, Colossus literally stated, I will combine my skill with strength. Like, the X-Men literally be having danger room sessions. Colossus be a part of these danger room sessions so they can all have better teamwork, working together with each other. That's probably how these two develop their special technique, the fastball special. When Colossus throws Wolverine like a freaking baseball, he could throw 100 and something pound men at 200 miles per hour. Like, imagine that, traveling at 200 miles per hour. And with Colossus' strength, this seems to be easy. So yeah, this partly is probably because they're training behind the scenes. Colossus isn't a weakling, but the times where he does get overpowered, he will use his skills and acrobats to get the advantage. Stated here, his strength is far greater than mine, must combine with my speed and skill. Let's talk about his just straightforward strength. Yeah, he can literally pick up cars, throw them ridiculous far distances, showing that that's not his max. We've seen him actually toss the head of a sentinel. Notice how big this junk is, even bigger than his own body. Aliens, he can easily pick up with one arm and sling them through the hull of a ship, like literally slinging them through all that. Like, he looks strong, but he's way stronger than his size. Even entities like Wendigo, he tosses this far. How much do you think all of this weighs? There's even situations where he's holding a lot of rubble. They ask, can you hold all that? He said, easily, Storm. The whole under part of a truck he can rip off. Like, right here, they literally said the weight, 35 tons. He can just casually lift up with ease, might I add. So that's why he's able to do stuff like this. When machinery or metal is going haywire, he's the one to stop it and rip it off if it's going too crazy. Like, 35 is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, this probably weighs way more than 35 tons, the way this looks. You know, he's the one that can carry the Blackbird. You know, the X-Men plane aircraft they're always riding in. He's the one that literally carried it. There was this ship. We see him help land, even though he was injured. Sentinels can vary in size, but majority of the time they're like tall as certain buildings, and you see him support the weight of a damaged sentinel here with his raw strength, despite the size difference. Lifting and tossing sentinels seems to be a common theme. Like, even when sentinels are trying to crush him, he stops their foot stomp. This occasion right here reminds me of the Ultimate Alliance video game where the Sentinels try to pull up on the X-Men mansion and Colossus just slings them. Like, this occasion reminds me of that. Even the Ultimate Sentinel known as Master Mold, we see Colossus show the strength to tear off his leg. You know how the X-Men are always training in the danger room, and there was like this huge press, like this just looks heavy. Here's another angle of how this thing looks that Colossus was able to catch with his muscle. Buildings can vary in weight. Obviously, they can weigh minimum thousands of tons or even more, hundreds of thousands of tons, depending on how you look at it. Colossus was one of the main factors, along with other powerhouses. Say he was 1/4 this strength to help tilt over an entire building. That would imply that certain smaller buildings he would be able to lift the weight of or help tilt over. This pretty much confirms Colossus can lift thousands of tons. I mean, this really shouldn't be a surprise when you see throughout this video of him giving some powerhouses in Marvel some issues. And you guys know the Hulk can weigh at least 1,000 pounds. If he can sling the Hulk this far, it just lets you know how much muscle he has. This might not look as flashy, but believe it or not, him actually arm wrestling somebody like the Thing is actually more impressive than lifting thousands of tons. Let me say that again. Arm wrestling somebody like the Thing is more impressive than lifting thousands of tons. And the only reason he lost is because he got distracted. But for them to even be arm wrestling, he must be worthy of the Thing's strength if they're even arm wrestling, guys. This is more evidence of the fact they have to be somewhere in the same power. They both are pushing in different directions, Colossus and the Thing. They imply they both can hold their own weight when it comes to how strong each of these beings are, Colossus and the Thing. He has to be somewhere in the Thing's ballpark. The Thing was able to withstand the weight of something that had the power to push through the entirety of the planet. The Thing's durability not only matches up with this kind of stuff, but he actually overpowered something that was going to push through the planet. So what does this say about Colossus arm wrestling strong beings like this? I would even say arm wrestling somebody as strong as the Thing is more impressive than lifting a mountain or lifting millions or billions of tons. He's able to catch punches from She-Hulk. I mean, just look what Hulk's opinion about Colossus's muscle is. Like, when it comes to raw muscle, nobody's trying to say Colossus is up there with War Hulk. Of course, Hulk was on another level of rage. There's no way Colossus. Like, just get that out there. But you got to remember what Hulk said here. This is crucial to understanding Colossus' true might. He said, there might have been a time you would have made a decent opponent. This says a lot. Obviously, he's not talking about War Hulk. Hulk has different power levels. We're not talking about this one, obviously. So get that out of your head. This is still ridiculously impressive considering even the weakest personalities, you know, Hulk has a lot of different personalities in his head. They're all the same guy, but just, you know, he got a messed up head. That's Hulk for you. That's what makes him cool. But even if we talk about one of the weaker personalities, guys, you got to remember, like, some of the weaker personalities, like maybe someone like Grey Hulk or Professor Hulk or something. Remember, Professor Hulk is still strong enough to hold up 150 billion ton mountains. Like, War Hulk never specified which personality he's talking about, but like, if we made an assumption and assumed he can hang with a Professor Hulk or something, or maybe 80% of Professor Hulk or something, I'm not even necessarily saying he's completely equal to Professor Hulk, but just give me some leeway here, guys. Even if we wanted to be disrespectful and mean about Colossus and said he's only 1% of that strength that we've seen Professor Hulk do, lifting billions of tons, even 1% of 150 billion is, guess what? Still a billion tons. So no matter how you look at it, the Colossus has to be able to at least lift over billions of tons. Like, Colossus is strong when it comes to his punching power. All this strength translates to his punching power. I mean, there's been times where he couldn't bust through stuff, but usually the stuff he couldn't bust through is like vibranium. You guys know how busted vibranium is. So if we're not counting stuff like that, when it comes to his grip, just muscle strength, we've seen him do crazy stuff like splat heads. We've seen him punch through super sentinels like Nimrod. We've seen him pulverize huge chunks of glass and steel. Punch beings like Omega Red and crack the wall with their body after being punched by Colossus. I mean, I already pretty much confirmed he could lift billions of tons, but just in case you had your doubts about it translating to his punching power, like, this is what you see happens when he punches beings. This is what happens to houses and stuff. So this is basically what would happen if Colossus was to pull up to a building. That, yeah, they're done for. Large steel mechs, he can use their own limbs to impale them. He can not only lift up a big chunk of the street, but destroy a tank and punch in tanks. He can withstand what he can dish out, because blast that can wreck a tank, he can just eat. And you see these thick walls right here, or doors, Colossus can force himself in. His punching power allows him to make his own doors. You can see him punch this ice, and he's part of the reason why it shatters. Like, he can quite literally hit tanks in the air, even if it's a above average size tank. And if he can do that to tanks, what do you think is going to happen to helicopters? With teamwork, he worked together, fighting this mech that was hitting Namor, and they busted up together. I mean, I already proved he can lift billions of tons. I mean, so when you see creatures that are literally the size of buildings, you really shouldn't be surprised when you see Colossus hit it and take down such beasts with his strikes. It's pretty much proven with his punches he could definitely level a building or multiple buildings, if we're being honest. I mean, I don't know how clear-cut this gets. Like, he was literally transported to a place with nothing but billions of miles of dense, impenetrable rock. And of course, he used his fists to punch through such structures, even though that's a lot of rock. of course he can level mountains. Because every time we see him in occasions with gigantic monsters that is the size of certain buildings, despite their massive size doesn't seem to faze Colossus, honestly. He can just hit him with his fists. You guys know about Cyclops on how he can shoot energy blasts from his eyes, and you know how he can adjust the visor's power output. This can kind of give you an idea of Colossus' durability and how much he can withstand, because Cyclops' eye beams it's been stated to be able to punch through mountains. More than one occasion of talking about he can level mountains. Like here stated, it can level a skyscraper without his visors on. He can level Mount Rushmore. Like, these are not necessarily occasions when he has his visors off, but yeah, Colossus does take his blast. And we see him blocking the blast here. So, okay, we're back to this. This is where you can really understand Colossus' true might. Everything I've said is pretty much just scratching the surface, honestly. Yeah, you still got to take in consideration what Hulk said. The fact that he said there might have been a time, aka forms not in the War Hulk state, weaker personalities, weaker anger levels, stuff like that, he would have been a decent fight. So a good way to understand Colossus' might is understand what previous Hulks have done when it comes to how hard they can hit and just strength in general, punching power, blah, 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 to get an idea of where Colossus would have to rank to be able to give a weaker version of Hulk a decent fight in the past. This grid is no exact math. Hear me out for a second. If we assume, of course, we can't compare him to this, and if we say he's not as strong as this, like, you know, of course, in their base states, all these Hulks can get stronger with anger. I'm talking about like their base states for the most part, or a little bit of anger, you know, stuff like that. If we compare Colossus to this version, a Gray Hulk, one of his weakest personality states starting off at base strength, if we assume Colossus is just a small bit below him, just a small bit when it comes to punching power, that would still mean Colossus is a planet buster by default. You're probably like, what? No, yeah, that would still make him a planet buster by default, being just slightly under a Hulk like this. Because you remember this Hulk back in the day, like there was these beings that was having fun blowing planets up and crap, and they were trying to do the same to Earth. There was something this big heading towards the Earth. Like, this is the size of this asteroid. It was twice the size of Earth. You're probably thinking, oh man, Hulk was angry, he got powered up, so we shouldn't compare Colossus to this. No, we should compare Colossus to this, because the Hulk wasn't even really that mad in this issue when he literally flew up there with the rocket pack on to destroy something that's 2 times the size of Earth, smashes it into smithereens. This Hulk wasn't even all that angry, really. So just imagine what a stronger version of Hulk or the other personalities can do. They can do way worse than what the Gray Hulk can. So just imagine those. But yeah, I'm talking about Colossus right now. But like, it's just letting you know that even if we compare Colossus to a weaker Hulk, that would still mean Colossus by default would be way above planet busting levels if he's got to be somewhere in their ballpark of punching power, punching strength. So even if he's not comparable to a War Hulk, if he's somewhere in the ballpark of a weaker personality Hulk, like Gray Hulk, if he's comparable to a being that can shatter something 2 times the size of Earth, that means smaller planetoids. Like the moon, he could tremble with his punches. Breaking stuff like this apart wouldn't even really be a challenge, honestly. He should easily be able to shatter moon type structures with his punching power based on him being anywhere in the ballpark with a weaker personality of the Hulk. I want you guys to keep in mind, this thing was heading towards Earth with velocity, and it takes over 10 times way more force to destroy something this big compared to the Earth than just earth-shattering power. So he's over earth-shattering at this point. So logically speaking, Colossus' punches is quite a bit over earth-shattering power. He should be quite a bit above earth-shattering, if we're being honest. I mean, Colossus does things he shouldn't be able to do with brute strength. Like Doctor Strange even mentions it. Like, he'd literally be opening stuff he's not supposed to just for brute strength because he's just that strong. He even says, only one being can open these unholy gates by force. Colossus may have a pure noble spirit, but he's still only human in the true hell. He should not have been able to smash these gates. Doctor Strange is impressed. Beings like Storm, who you know I got respect for on the channel, who's ridiculously strong, tried to get through something with her blast and she couldn't get through it. There was like this mystical ice nobody can get through. Wolverine, with his claws that can cut anybody, including the Hulk, by the way, couldn't do anything to this ice. Storm's lightning bolts or Wolverine's claws could do nothing. Not even Doctor Strange's mystical spells. But here comes Colossus with his ridiculous super strength. Just bust through it with physicals. Like, are you serious? Something Doctor Strange had issues blasting through. It would be weird if he couldn't destroy planets, if he can do stuff like that. We know Doctor Strange can blast away planets. Heck, if he can bust through something not even Storm can get through, that would imply Colossus hits would be heavier than Star's, if we're being honest. I'm not saying he's necessarily equal to Juggernaut, but look at Juggernaut's facial expression when Colossus punches him. Even when Juggernaut's powered up, he like cracks his helmet. Like, I'm not saying he's up there with this version of Juggernaut, but it's the fact that his punch did this to his helmet. Colossus's fists are so heavy to where he can hit being so hard, being like Archon, like who is ridiculously strong. They even state Archon's bones must be nearly as strong as yours, Wolverine. He was able to hit this being and make him kind of drowsy. This same being that Colossus kind of made a little drowsy was able to fist fight with the god of strength, Hercules. Just to put it into perspective on how scary this is, you guys already know, I don't even have to bring this up, but Hercules, you might want to watch my Hercules video on top of this to show that I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but it's easy to think this is an exaggeration. Trust me, it's not. Hercules has the strength to shake the universe. Like, no, they're not exaggerating. He literally has the strength to shake the universe. Hercules is the same being that can lift an entire universe for 3 hours. No, this Hercules feat is actually reiterated. Yep, Atlas lifting heavens. They talk about how he can lift infinitely massive weights. This is what Hercules had to do. Yeah, so matching Hercules a little bit in a slugfest is way more of a big deal than you might think. Of course, Hercules doesn't fight everybody super seriously. It's just something to put in consideration. So this being Archon that can slugfest with Hercules, who can lift the universe. This is like a myth feat. You can't really call a myth feat an outlier for Hercules. That's something that he's known to do in the mythos. This is Marvel's interpretation of the mythos of him supporting the weight of the universe. Colossus can hit beings like this and make them drowsy with his hits. That's how hard he can hit. His punches can hit being and damage certain beings that can give Hercules some scuffles. You know, Colossus can punch ridiculously hard. Just being ridiculously disrespectful. Trembling planets like Earth shouldn't be no problem or destroying it with his punches. One could even say larger planets like Jupiter, he shouldn't have no problem trembling with his punches. I've got a video about Vision on the channel. Check it out if you want to understand why this is impressive. He gets in a slugfest with Vision. Like, there's a lot of comics where lower tiers scuffle with top tier. You can't really rank a character based off that kind of stuff, but these aren't scuffles. These are like full-blown fights. We've seen Colossus actually knock out a Wendigo creature. Beings, like it's literally stated, they are strong or somewhere in the ballpark with Hulk-ish type beings. I mean, there's plenty of comics where Wendigos bite and seem like they can make the Hulk bleed. So yeah, it just depends. Like, I'm not saying Wendigos are equal. Even in mobs, they can still kind of sort of damage them. Think of the Wendigos being like mini bosses for the Hulk, like mini baby boss battles. For the most part, I would say the Hulk would always win, but like they can threaten, make them bleed a little bit here and there, you know? I mean, if there wasn't no challenge for the Hulk, at least in groups, why would that writers keep having Wendigos go against different Hulk family members or Weapon H or something, you know? And Colossus did this to want to make them sleepy. So yeah, Colossus can hit hard. Beings like the Blob, who are supposedly immovable, his punches can make the Blob kind of sleepy and drowsy. War Machine is somebody that's stronger than you probably think. Punches Colossus, and Colossus retaliates, punches him, and sends him flying. War Machine even blasted him here. He just pushed through the attack and punched him. When we're comparing him to the heaviest hitters, beings that can rip apart black holes, I wouldn't necessarily say he's equal completely to the strongest beings in Marvel Universe, like Gladiator, for example. Like, there's implications that Gladiator got him, but at the same time, he was still able to stand toe-to-toe, punch after punch, with awesome power, they say. They narrate this fight is brutal, a clash of modern titans. Like, they imply this is not just a one-shot type of fight. Colossus is literally, this does not seem like a scuffle. This seems like a serious fight, causing crazy collateral to the environment and everything. Even with the clothes of Gladiator being ripped off, implying that Colossus was able to do some damage to Gladiator. This type of stuff would imply that Colossus would have to be somewhere, even if he's lower, he would have to be somewhere in them black hole-ish ranges or higher when it comes to how hard his punches would have to hit to even be able to compete with Gladiator this much. They wouldn't have narrated it like that if he wasn't up there with these black hole-ish or higher type powerhouses in Marvel, calling them both titans in narration. Implied for a little while Colossus was able to stand on equal footing with him. I mean, Colossus did bust through something Doctor Strange, Storm, and Wolverine's claws couldn't get through, and he just bust through it with his physical brawl strength and punching power, so that he should be up there somewhere, even if he's not completely equal. Consider we know how powerful Storm is when it comes to her blast, same with Doctor Strange, and we know Wolverine's claws. So, I mean, part of the reason why he could hit it so hard is, a lot of it is because of his muscles, of course, but part of it could be because he weighs a lot and he can move pretty swiftly for his size. This is something a lot of super soldier tiers do, so it's no surprise Colossus can react to bullets that are mid-flight, like you see him in his human mode, so this was actually a threat to him. I mean, when we're talking about fighting speed, we've seen Colossus actually take on beings that can punch so fast, other beings can't see the beings' punches. Like, beings like Colossus have to fight beings that can punch so fast, other beings can't see their punches. Yet, Colossus can react and block attacks from these beings that can punch this fast and counterattack. So it lets you know that his combat speed or fighting speed is not normal. I mean, one could argue that his fighting speed could be in that light speed level too, because, I mean, just think about it. He had a full-blown slugfest fist fight with Gladiator, somebody we know has ridiculous combat speed, and he didn't just get outright speed blitz. So you know Colossus' fighting speed has to be pretty good. Gladiator, he can react to punches within nanoseconds time span, 1/1000th of a second. This is what Colossus had to, slugfest with. So you know Colossus' fighting speed has to be crazy. You guys got to remember, he's slower when he's in his human mode, like I already showed, and he's still able to react to a dude that's pointing a gun at him. So if he can do this stuff in his human mode, just imagine his metal mode. It's even faster, blitzing beings before they even have a chance to do anything. Like, you wouldn't expect somebody that's 500 pounds to surprise beings like Psylocke with their speed. Like these guards, he blitzes them before they can even do anything. He legit be doing flip kicks, like, and then drop kicking beings like Juggernaut and stuff. Nightcrawler even talks about how he moves very fast when it comes to his reaction time. I mean, this is partly strength because of how fast the ball goes, but you try to play dodgeball with somebody that can teleport and see if you can do it. But Colossus was still able to hit him. But yeah, throughout this video, he should technically easily be a planet buster, way above black hole ranges of power. Even if we don't say he's completely equal to Thor and the Hulk tiers, those are the beings are the heavy hitters. But yeah, if he's anywhere like the Thing, that would still be impressive for Colossus when it comes to his brute strength. But when we're talking about temporary power-ups, say it with me, Colossus can surpass our favorite powerhouses via temporary power-ups. You know, the power-up everybody gets every now and then to surpass our favorite characters and then lose it. You know, Colossus had those too. In this state, there's no doubt he could devastate the universe because the Phoenix can do that with ease. So, I mean, just having a fraction of the Phoenix Force power, you would be able to level multiple universes if we're being honest. But this is a temporary power. In this temporary power-up state, he can do all the stuff we already mentioned, but on a higher level, along with him being more versatile, not just being brute strength, but Colossus as a Phoenix avatar can fly through space at faster than light speeds. There's implications that any Phoenix Force avatar can heal beings. Colossus is included in this conversation. Just like the other members, there's implications Colossus can make a shield while floating. With the Phoenix Force power, it's implied he has telekinesis because he's able to part the Red Sea with his energy projection, that big body of water. Yep. Yeah, it seems like this is casual. Like, he's doing this while having dinner. He can grow ridiculously large. Yeah, look how small people look compared to him. He can pretty much do anything you can think of. Like, he literally gave certain creatures legs and arms and crap. If you're one of those people that don't believe Colossus is anywhere near Thor in his base, in his Phoenix Force state, there's implications he is, or even higher than Thor, one could say. His punching power seems to have increased astronomically. There's clearly a drastic power difference between these two forms of Colossus, because I already showed you how in his base state he was able to have a full-blown fight with Gladiator, but eventually got overcame with some minor scratches, clothes ripped up and stuff, implying he gave him somewhat of an issue. But with Phoenix, all this has seemed to change when it comes to his punching power, being able to really damage Gladiator. So you know it's an astronomical power increase. He's very versatile like this. His blast power, he could more than likely, I'm about 100% sure he could, thanks to him having 1/4 or 1/5 of the force of the Phoenix Force, he'd be able to basically cause catastrophic damage to a whole bunch of universes. He could just mess up multiple universes. Yeah, you guys probably think this sounds crazy. If you know the Phoenix Force by now, you should know this shouldn't be nothing new, really. That's what happens when you get a little piece of the Phoenix Force. Phoenix is just busted. I mean, he's such on another level to where beings that can phase through your body end up burning themselves. Like, beings that are intangible get burned. Like, let that sink in. Like, he's a cosmic force right now. He even said, I could kill you and bring you back in the blink of an eye, like implying he could raise the dead. That simple. He's the Phoenix. I don't doubt what he's saying he's fire and life incarnate, the Phoenix. Like, I just want to give you an idea of how amped up Colossus was. Emma Frost isn't even known for her physical power, but when she's amped up with Phoenix Force power, this is what happens when she faces Thor. She's even strong enough to hit this hard to make Thor sleepy. That just lets you know how much of a amp the Phoenix Force does. Messing up Thor that easily. Imagine Colossus, who's already a powerhouse with, you know, you see what I'm saying? You see where this is going? I mean, just look at him fighting a group of powerful heroes, all of them at the same time. So it lets you know how strong Colossus was like this. Phoenix state. Yeah, saying he could blow away the cosmos is an oversimplification. But yeah, since this is a temporary power, let's get off of this real quick and jump to another time he got a temporary power up. Like when he literally became Juggernaut. I mean, he's stronger than ever, but he's faster than ever. He can run 66 miles per hour as a Juggernaut. He's an avatar of this demon known as Sidorak, and his emotions actually affect how his power increases, because in this state, he'll actually start looking demonic looking, and it seems like he can still activate his steel strength with the Juggernaut power, because you can see the steel element with the Juggernaut look. It's cool that he can turn it on and off though. Like, he can literally get rid of his helmet. He's completely on the Hulkish range right here, at least. He literally rammed into a powerhouse like Namor and made him go night-night. This should be like a no Sherlock moment. Yeah, but yeah, he can destroy planets in this state too. Of course, just like his standard state technically should be able to too. The only difference being this one is actually on par with the super heavy hitters of Marvel. This form is not up there with the Phoenix, I would say though, but like up there with the heavy hitters like Hulk, Thor, blah, 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 Hercules. Yeah, you know, Marvel Hercules can lift the universal heaven, so yeah. And he can shake the universe with his punching power, which adds up with his strength to be able to lift immeasurable infinite weight like the cosmos or universe or heavens itself. It all adds up. In this state, he's basically just Juggernaut. You guys know Juggernaut's equal to the powerhouses basically, and yeah, universe shaking stuff is just common for them. Watch those videos to see more proof of that. You know, Colossus has this punching power in this Juggernaut state, without a doubt. But yeah, he's ridiculously strong like this, but of course this didn't stay. They can't have him be like this. It would take away his identity to always be Juggernaut, so he ends up getting free of the power, of course. But yeah, he doesn't need this. He's strong without this anyway. It was a temporary power-up. One more temporary power I want to talk about for 2 seconds. When he became a horseman, one could say he could do everything Colossus can do in this Horseman of Apocalypse state. Like you see Storm, he just grabs Storm here. He's obviously not in his right mind. He's more than likely amped up to some degree, but we just don't really know the exact number or nothing. Like you can kind of tell by the superhumanness here, like he's still ridiculously strong physically. And he can punch ridiculously hard. That's clear evidence of that kind of stuff still. One major unique thing he can do as a Horseman of Apocalypse that we usually don't see him do is stuff like stretching, shape-shifting type stuff, kind of the stuff that Apocalypse does. Like he does some liquid metal type stuff here. And in this state, he's completely immune to telepathy. His mind is impenetrable. In this state, we see him handle Nightcrawler, Iceman. Keep in mind that Iceman's an Omega level mutant, by the way, just to throw that out there. But of course, stuff like this never happens or stays. You know, temporary power-ups, you know, he got rid of this power. He ended up turning back to normal. You know the routine. So as cool as this is, he didn't keep this. Doesn't need it. Still strong without it. But never forget, Colossus, for the most part, in his normal state that we're used to seeing him in his metal state, he still might not be necessarily equal to a Hulk being in his green state, but maybe like a grayish Hulk that's pretty calm or something. That would make more sense, right? Because he himself admitted when he does lack the strength to get somebody, he has to use his swiftness, his speed, and skill to kind of bridge the gap on the strength that he might lack when it comes to his punching power and stuff. He still has to be pretty freaking heavy. Maybe he's calm Hulk level strong or something. Makes sense, right? And if you truly understand the power of the Marvel powerhouses, even if we considered him 10%, 9%, 5%, 1% of their power, that would still be ridiculously impressive when it comes to how heavy he would have to punch to even be 1% of their punching power, if you want to say he's nowhere near them. Even if he's nowhere near them, that would still be impressive in Marvel standards, being somewhere in this. We know he's somewhere in that ballpark to give him that much of an issue, but he does seem to lose against them, but he ain't that far, if that makes sense. I mean, he lives in a universe where beings can blast away galaxies and galaxies shatter and multiple galaxies and stuff, like, and he's hanging with these powerhouses. Like, he got it, like, no matter how you slice it, he has to be ridiculous. But before I get going, I got to give a quick thanks to the donators real quick. Respect Colossus, though. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.